Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Miss Rockbarone's Art Room. If you were absent and you ended up missing our Mosaic Portrait Project intro with super awesome art exploration of personification of Ktisis, we are super happy to have you here with us, okay, so that we can get you caught up on what you've missed. So, if you missed the canvas, you've been given a worksheet because currently I don't have the Nearpod link for a student paced one, so I only have the classroom one. So you'll fill out the information as best you can following the worksheet as I bring you through our Nearpod in our video guide. Okay, so let's get started. Mosaic Portrait Project Intro. First things first, we're going to be studying mosaic portraiture from the early Byzantine Empire. Now, mosaic was one of the primary art mediums of the early Byzantine culture. What I mean by mediums? Well, medium is just an art material. Paint, clay, pencil, ink, etc. Now, mosaic is just a surface decoration made by inlaying small pieces of colored material to make up a picture. Most commonly, they're like glass or stone. We can see this beautiful contemporary mosaic, mini tree mosaic by Danae Williams. She's a contemporary artist working and living in Los Angeles, and she makes these gorgeous little designs. But our mosaic is going to be made of paper, right? A mosaic could still be, or collage could still be made with another material like wood or fabric, or, well, in our case for portraiture, paper. All right, now most Byzantine mosaics were composed of stone, ceramic, and other glass tile fixed with mortar. What's mortar? Just a building material, right? Mixture of cement, lime, gypsum, plaster, sand, water, hardens, and used in masonry. What's really cool is their creation is remarkably similar to how we install modern tile today, right? It's an art form that hasn't, that the techniques haven't evolved much in 2,000 years. It's remarkably the same. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Byzantine Empire. So, map of the Byzantine Empire, here it is at the height of its power. I prefer to use the terms CE, Common Era, and BCE, Before Common Era, because it's less ethno-Judeo-Christian centric. You're probably used to seeing the terms AD and BC, right? AD meaning Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord, referring to 0, and then 2019 years of human history moving forward, and BC, before Christ, 0, and about 50,000 years of human art history and culture moving backwards that we have known art pieces for. We're trying in history and art history not to use AD and BC anymore because, again, it's considered a bit ethnocentric. The vast majority of the world is not Judeo-Christian, so art historians and other anthropologists and people who study this professionally, we've been doing our best to make sure that we use the terms now CE, meaning Common Era, 0, 2019 years of history forward, and BCE, 0, and 50,000 years of known art history and even more of human existence going backwards. Okay, so those are the terms you'll hear me use. Some of my maps are a little older though, and they still have the AD in there, so I just didn't want anybody to be confused on what terms were. But you can see the Byzantine Empire controlled pretty much what is now the present-day Mediterranean Sea. Right, we have little bits of Morocco, little bits of northern Egypt, present-day Libya, Turkey, parts of present-day Israel and the Western Bank, Greece, Italy, okay, parts of southern Spain and Portugal, okay, all happening in here, that were all controlled by the Byzantines. So, Byzantine Empire, it's the name given to the Eastern Roman Empire during the late antiquity through the Middle Ages. So their empire existed pretty much from about 285 to 1461, or if you want to think of it in easy numbers, 250 CE to about 1500 CE. Capital was Constantinople, languages Latin until 620 CE, Greek after that. Their religions were Roman pagan, okay, until they converted to Christianity, okay, which usually means their leader converted to Christianity and then forced their entire population to convert to whatever their new religion was, in this case, Christianity. The Byzantines were super economically powerful. Why? Because they controlled the Silk Road. They controlled all the trade on it. So that meant if any European country wanted to get anything from China or from any of the Southern Asian Pacific countries, India, it had to go through the Byzantines, and they were getting a cut. Think of them kind of like the ancient, I shouldn't say ancient, but the Amazon.com of the Middle Ages, right? Anything that passed through that trade route, they were getting a little cut of it on the way, okay? And what that allowed for was a really powerful, stable government, which meant that they weren't having like food shortages or riots. So with a powerful, stable government where you got a lot of extra cash around, you tend to get some pretty cool public art, right? We need a stable government with a kind of well taken care of population in order for the arts to flourish, right? If we don't have those things, art tends to not happen. So here it is, fragment of a floor mosaic with a personification of Ktisis. This gorgeous piece of antiquity actually lives in the Metropolitan Museum of Art now. It's no longer considered in situ, which means it was taken out of the building it was originally in, okay? It was once a part of a public building. It's made of marble and glass, and is from between 500 and 550 CE. We know this date because it was chiseled on the building it was taken from. There it is. What a fabulous work of art. Okay, open-ended question for you, ladies and gents. So looking at this woman, do you think she's rich or poor? And I also want to know why. So first answer the question, she's rich or she's poor, and then tell me why you thought that. I'm going to pause for a moment. Okay. Hopefully you've had an idea or a guess. Now, I am going to tell you, ladies and gents, she is definitely rich. She is most certainly part of the upper aristocratic or merchant class of the Byzantine Empire. And there are three things on her person that indicate that she's wealthy. Number one is her fabulous jewelry, right? She's got this tiara, gorgeous earrings, necklaces, little brooch, okay, things like that. And that would be reserved for, wealthy people. You had to be able to afford it. If you were just subsistence farming or whatnot, there was no way you were going to have fabulous jewelry. Another thing that indicates that she's super wealthy is her clothing, right? Her clothing looks like it's of a very fine or luxurious fabric. It's most likely mimicking silk. A note about the fabric and the clothing and the jewelry. There are elements of this that are the glass portion of the mosaic, not just the marble, which meant it would look like it was shimmering or shining in the sunlight in the public space. Okay, and then finally, the third thing that indicates that she's wealthy is actually her hair. Her hair is really done up and beautiful and fancy, and that would have been, again, reserved for the aristocratic elite because they were the folks who had time in the day to have their hair done and have servants and such who could do it for them. Whereas again, if you were subsistence farming or barely scraping by, you weren't taking the time to do your hair up fancy just to go work out in the fields, right? All right, so make sure you take time to write down, and we're going to move on to our next slide. At any point in time, ladies and gents, if you need to pause this video to do your writing, please do so. All right, so my next question for you is, what do you think the woman is holding? And my hint for you is, how do you measure something? So here's the object she's holding. What do you think it is? Okay, take a guess. A stick she found on the ground, an ancient ruler, an ancient spoon, a tool for carving. Ladies and gents, if you guessed ancient spoon, you are correct. Or ancient spoon. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. If you guessed ancient ruler, you are correct. Oh my goodness, ladies and gents, so sorry. Boy, I'm misreading my own slide. If you guessed ancient ruler, you are correct. The woman in this picture is holding the ancient measure for a Roman foot. Okay, so it would be considered an ancient ruler. So make sure you write down ancient ruler. Or you could write, if you want to be fancy about it, you could write down measure of a Roman foot. Well, my next question for you actually is about this man hanging out right here, and I'll go back to my next slide to pull up the picture so it's easier to see. Now the man in the picture is holding a cornucopia and he's offering it to the woman with the Greek word right there for good near his head. Many scholars believe that this image is a personification of a human ideal. Let's remember, personification is when we take a non-human quality, right? Something that's not literally human. So in this case, an ideal like beauty, or an ideal like, oh goodness, let's think of something like happiness or whatnot, and then giving it a human form. Right? So this is a human ideal. Now, I'm asking you, what ideal do you think it is? And here's my hint for you. If someone shares or gives a lot, we would say they are what? Begins with a G. Okay, hopefully you've had at least kind of an inkling. Generous, ladies and gentlemen. This is a personification of generosity. Ooh, so what an interesting picture we have. We have a picture of a upper-class Byzantine woman holding an ancient ruler, with the personification of generosity next to her. Well, that's odd. That's quite odd. Okay, oh, before we go on to our next slide, I'm going to go back. Let me put this picture up again. So, ladies and gents, what we're looking at, believe it or not, is actually an ancient public service announcement. Now, if you don't know what a public service announcement is, think like the truth campaigns, like the anti-smoking campaigns, the watch out for motorcyclists on the road, don't drink and drive billboards, right? Those are all public service announcements. This was an ancient public service announcement. It was taken from basically a public market building that was part of the ancient Byzantine Empire. And what this ad, if you will, this ancient ad is saying, is this. Merchant class people, merchants dealing in the marketplace, be generous, be fair, be honest in your dealings, in your measurements with the public, right? Because you have to think about the time. There were no barcodes, there was no standard weighting system. You basically had to barter and rely on your merchant to be honest in how they were weighting out, right? What was to stop them for like, light weighting their weights so that they were cheating you on the amount of grain or flour or bolts of fabric you were about to buy, okay? And it was a big enough problem that the Byzantine Council ended up commissioning public art to say, be fair and honest in your dealings. So if you think about it, it's like an ancient PSA. My goodness, imagine 2,000 years from now, our great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren may be wandering through the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and they may see a anti-smoking ad as a piece of high art from the 21st century. Wouldn't that be funny? Okay, so personification. That's what that art piece is about, right? So still totally relevant to today. Right? It's an ancient public service announcement. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the fine art elements that are happening in this image for our last two sections. So the first thing I want to talk about is value, lightness or darkness of a color. Okay, so this is a blue ball. And if it was just one blue color, it wouldn't look like a ball at all. It would just look like a blue circle. What gives us the illusion that it has three-dimensional form is value, right? It's got light blue, middle blue, and dark blue. So I have an open-ended question for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at our picture here, the personification of Ktisis, looking at her beautiful face, what helps to make the woman's face look real? And my hint for you is, did the artist use just one color for the skin? So let's take a look at her. And hopefully you answered no, the artist didn't, because you would be absolutely correct. No, the artist used multiple values of skin tones to create the illusion that she looks three-dimensional. The artist has shaded, if you will, with these mosaic tiles. So put it in your own words, ladies and gentlemen, right? The artist has shaded the woman's face, or the artist has used multiple value skin tones to make it look 3D. Okay, let's move on to our next slide, because we're going to talk about proportions. Proportion, ladies and gentlemen, is just the relation of parts to each other. In portraiture, We're talking about the parts of the face, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, okay, in relationship to the overall head and each other. Now, in proportion, okay, the eyes are located halfway from the top of the head to the chin. The nose is located halfway from the eyes to the chin. And the mouth is located halfway from the nose to the bottom of the chin. And then the ears, right? I love this one. You never realize actually how big your ears are. Your ears are approximately from your eyebrows to the bottom of your nose. Now, this is an approximation. Out of the, oh my goodness, I think we're darn close to 8 billion people in the world now. But out of the almost 8 billion people, we'll say, on the face of the earth, this is just kind of an average, an approximation. Do I know that there are some people who have their eyes slightly above this, slightly below this, noses that are more of a third and a mouth that's a third, or maybe noses that are even a little bit longer. They're more like 3/4 and a quarter, okay? Absolutely. That's what makes you look like you. But we say on average, this is the approximate location of human proportions. So please, on your note sheet, I originally had this as a nice draw. I want you to try drawing it out on the screen here. But in the case of my folks taking notes at home and doing a little catch-up, please make sure you just write down 1/2 for the eyes, 1/2 for the nose, and 1/2 for the mouth on the worksheets. You're constantly dividing these segments in half as you move down the face. So for your notes, you'll just write half, half, and half, and you'll know exactly what that means. Okay. So, as we get to doing our mosaic portraits, you're going to get some choices, ladies and gents. You're going to be able to work from, well, sometimes a profile picture, or potentially a 3/4 view or a frontal view, depending on who you pick for your portrait out of the selected portraits I have, or if you choose to take a self-portrait for our portrait project. So be thinking about what type of portrait you'd like to do. And also, our portraits are going to be done with high contrast color. What is contrast? Contrast is just the visual difference in color, value, size, shape, or texture that is very obvious. Right? In this project, we're focusing on contrast in color, specifically high contrast color pairs. Right? So colors that are very different. We're going to make these really bright and colorful. You can use, oh, that got cut off a little bit on my slide there. You can use low contrast color pairs. Right? But just low contrast means these colors aren't as different, right? We're going to be going for high contrast, really bright. Now, many of you may be thinking, all right, cool, ancient PSA, but artists don't really make mosaics anymore, right? Oh, no, there are tons of artists who make mosaics. I featured 2 in this canvas, and you can check out if you just click and write down this address and put this URL into Google. You'll be able to check out couple contemporary artists working like today, alive right now. Reginald Adams, celebrated Houston, Texas-based artist, creates beautiful public space art using mosaic as his primary medium. Right there you can see actually there's Reginald Adams, and he's working with a team of people creating the Downs Field murals at Austin, Texas, all done in mosaic. So check out his website. And also, if you want to know even more about another contemporary artist, check out the work of Trish Metzner, nationally recognized mosaic artist working in Philadelphia. Her East Falls neighborhood studio serves as a workshop and community hub, and she has one of the coolest projects. She's standing right here in a front section of the Zacatán de las Manzas mural in Zacatán, Mexico, and it's the Mile Tile project. It's this gorgeous mural that runs for just approximately a mile's length against the cemetery, famous cemetery wall in this area of Mexico. And she does these just absolutely gorgeous, huge mosaics as community works projects. So certainly check those 2 contemporary artists out. All right, ladies and gents, thank you so much for catching up with me, and I will be seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.